This is a behind-the-scenes look at the Haunted Mansion set. The haunt is intended to represent a mansion from the 1800s that has been turned into a historical landmark. The guests are invited to explore the once grand living quarters of the former sea merchant who owned and resided in the estate. Over the centuries, the mansion has a reputation for being haunted, and to this day, the mysterious disappearance of the sea captain remains unsolved. The inspiration for my haunt comes from Disneyland's Haunted Mansion, located in the New Orleans-themed area of the park. That's also where the Pirates of the Caribbean ride is located, which also had an influence on my haunt as well, as will be revealed in a future prop building video in this series. But returning to the Haunted Mansion, I remember standing in the hallway with the changing portraits, the stormy windows, and the staring statues, that I had a transformative moment where I felt that connection to the creative energy in the Haunted Mansion. Walt Disney directed the design aesthetics of the Haunted Mansion. He rejected the idea of having a run-down building in the park. He insisted that the exterior be well maintained, stating, "We'll take care of the outside and let the ghosts take care of the inside." The Haunted Mansion experience that Walt envisioned was to strike a balance between creating a sense of mystery and spookiness without being overly frightening or upsetting. The focus was to rely on clever illusions and special effects rather than relying solely on jump scares. The set location of the haunt is in my garage. This is what the garage looks like. The garage shares the space with a washer and dryer, a water heater, and storage that must all be covered up when the garage is being used as a haunt. The garage has a couple of challenges being used as a haunt space. First of all, it is tiny, roughly 10 feet across and 17 feet back of usable haunt space. For comparison, this is smaller than most modern-sized living rooms. The next challenge is maintaining controlled lighting in the haunt. The garage is situated facing another street, and on Halloween night there's a constant stream of cars with their headlights shining directly into the haunt, ruining the lighting of my special effects. Over the years, I have devised an effective method of baffling the light using two walls. This technique prevents the light from coming inside the haunt, thus I can control the lighting for my special effects. In previous years, I utilized plastic tarps hung up in my garage to create my haunted houses. However, these materials are not suitable for creating the Haunted Mansion walls. I knew I needed to make durable wooden flats, the type used in Hollywood for theatrical, TV, and film, but I was not sure how to fabricate them, so I sought out guidance, once again, from Hollywood Haunter.
Hey everybody! In this video we're going to share with you how we make a 4x10 flat, much like the ones behind me with this forest graphic on there. If you guys are ever needing a flat for any reason, whether it be for a haunt panels, maze walls, facades, or some kind of theatrical set that you're working on, this is a nice simple construction layout that's easy to do. So come on, let's get started. Here are the parts. Basically you've got a top and bottom rail, you've got the two sides and a center stile or stud, and then you've got 8 toggles that make up the inside framing, and then you've got the sheet of Luan that's stapled and glued to the underside here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all my material. I'm going to be using 1x3 for the framing, the flat, and then I'm going to mark my 2-foot centers. I use a staple gun. The staples that I use they're 16 gauge staples with a 7/16 crown, and they're 1 3/4 inches long. Okay, so I have the 2 outside studs and the center stud shot in place. Now I'm going to do the toggles. I'm going to start with one side, so I got 4. Make sure you put glue on both sides. This one, let's get it down there. sure it's flush there. Alright, so I have all this side all finished. I've kind of wiped off some of the excess glue. Now I'm moving on to this side. Now these ones are a little bit trickier, but let me show you. Get some glue on here. I'm ready to now get some glue on this thing. It looks like I'm... So now I have glue all over the framing. I'm getting ready to put the sheet on top of here. I put these two clamps down just so that it'll keep this side up while I get the other end all lined up. I'm going to use this staple gun. The staples are 18 gauge. They've got a 1/4 inch crown, and these ones are 5/8 long. You can also use 1/4 inch or 1 inch. When I start this, I make sure that it's hanging off both sides evenly, and then I make it flush with the bottom first. And then I put it's flush. This is glue. Now I work my way down one of the sides. Now I need to go through and finish stapling down my center stud and along each one of my toggles. To do this, the fastest way for me is just to use a chalk line. And I just, basically I'll line it up with the staple marks that I made from earlier when I was doing the framing. If you're using a pneumatic staple gun or a nail gun and you're having issues of the staples blowing through the plywood, it always helps if you shoot either from an angle or you adjust the air pressure on your air compressor. Okay, I got all the staples all finished. I've kind of lightly sanded all the way around the edge here. We're going to make another video on prepping and painting. And if you guys have any questions, leave comments below, and thank you for watching.
There's a squirrel right behind you.
Really?
Yeah.
I highly recommend viewing Hollywood Haunter's tutorial on constructing wall flats, as well as their extensive set builds including a western ghost town, a haunted house facade, and various other set and prop projects. Please find the links in the show notes below. I will describe the haunt layout shortly, but based upon my planning, I knew that I needed 10 sheets of plywood. I checked my local home improvement stores for Luan plywood, but it was out of stock, both online and in stores. The most affordable option available was floor underlayment, but the product had rough surfaces and many knot holes that would require extensive filling, patching, and sanding, making it less desirable as a substitute for Luan. And the prices for other plywood products of better quality were significantly more expensive. Initially, I tried using masonite hardboard for wall flats, assuming that it would be suitable for indoor use. However, I encountered issues with the material warping despite sealing and priming the surfaces. Consequently, I had to remake the flats. Fortunately, I was able to repurpose the masonite for the decorative wall paneling. Once again, I returned to the home improvement store to find an alternative to Luan plywood. I selected 3/8 inch oriented strand board, otherwise known as OSB. This is not an ideal product to use for wall flats, but as you'll see, I did find a way to make it work. Here you can see 6 of the 10 walls being constructed. All 1x3 furring strips were cut, glued, and stapled to create the frames. These frames were primed and painted black. Separately, the OSB boards were also primed and painted black. Once the paint was dry, I glued and stapled the OSB plywood to the frames to form the flats. Then, these outward-facing surfaces needed a coat of primer. I knew that 7 of the wall flats would have wallpaper applied to them. However, if the wallpaper were directly applied over the OSB, it would show the OSB wood. So I used a light coat of joint compound just on the upper part where the wallpaper would be applied. This product starts out purple but dries white. After it's dry, a light sanding is needed and then a final coat of primer was applied. As far as the black walls were concerned, they did not need to have any joint compound. They were completely acceptable for black walls in low light haunt conditions. Now let's examine the set's decorative elements. To simplify construction of the mansion's interior for my haunt, I chose a colonial architecture style, characterized by clean lines, simpler ornamentation using boxy or rectangular shapes. For the window and staring statue casings, I purchased fluted moldings and corner rosettes from a home improvement store. However, for the wall details, I chose to mill my own moldings for the crown, chair, and picture frame paneling. I got a set of 6 molding router bits from Amazon and milled a sample of each. I chose one for the crown molding and another for the chair molding. Then I picked through the 1x3 furring strips for the straightest and best looking boards and proceeded to mill 28 linear feet of each type on my router table. Well, if you pick yourself up a router table, let me tell you, you're going to make a lot of this stuff. A lot of that stuff. I mean, a tremendous amount of this stuff. Shop vac. They have a dust port in the back of these things. And, yeah, I probably should be... Well, I was outside. I thought maybe I can get away with it, but... After a few passes through my router table, I realized that I needed my dust separator to control the sawdust. I should have done that to start with. What they call a cyclone separator, and that'll probably help. But I'm being covered in sawdust. This is ridiculous. I've only gotten halfway through my project. For the decorative paneling at the bottom of the wall, I used masonite hardboard as a backing. Added faux painting for a leather-like look. I applied the chair rail at the top. I cut 1x3s to size for the ends and middle, and a 1x3 along the bottom. The picture frame paneling also used 1x3 furring strips that I ripped down to 3/4 inch widths on my table saw, and I used a Roman ogee bit for the profile. In summary, I milled a total of 140 linear feet of molding for the haunt. One other detail worth mentioning. I offset the decorative paneling by a couple of inches so that they would overlap the gaps between the wall flat sections. So when I'm building a haunt, I'll be making it out of a bunch of 4-foot panels. You'll be able to see the seams running up and down. And so when you have wallpaper, the design is obviously going to be just continuous. If you have what I'll do is I'll have a panel that'll basically come out just a little bit beyond that point, and I'll just be attaching them with screws. You won't see it from the back side. You won't see those. I used a bevel cut to make a scarf joint and attach the decorative paneling separately after the wall flats were installed in the haunt. The wallpaper is a vinyl peel and stick type, and it is described as a black and gold damask pattern, which actually turned out to be an espresso brown when seeing it in person. Fortunately, it complemented the haunt color scheme of brown, red, gold, and black. The planning process begins on grid paper, with sketches of the haunt layout before any physical changes are made in the garage. Experience has shown 3 feet of walking space is necessary, and in this haunt, each stanchion occupies 1 square foot, requiring a hallway width of 5 feet. The stormy window is the central prop of the haunt. All the elements that make up the prop were described in a separate behind-the-scenes video. The pirate ship painting had to be directly across the hallway to sell the effect. After some debate, the location of the staring statues were chosen to be the lead-in prop for the haunt. Each of the props mentioned here have their own dedicated video. Links are provided in the description notes. The second phase of planning is to tidy up the garage by organizing all the ghosts of Halloween's past, so I can put painter's tape on the floor to lay out the walls and location of where the props will be. So I've been mocking up the haunt. This is the hallway. It's about 12 feet long. And then we get here to the end where... I didn't mean to frighten you prematurely, but there will be no spoilers. This prop will be revealed in a future video. I needed to brace and secure the haunt walls without the need for bolts drilled and anchored into the concrete floor. And due to space constraints, I could not use wall jacks to prop up and support the walls. Instead, I bolted all the panels together at 3 locations using 3/8-inch bolts, washers, and nuts. Additionally, I painted 3 2x4s black and screwed them into the tops of each panels using a couple of 2-inch structural screws. And these 2x4s themselves were then attached to the garage walls, which were secured into the studs. I can confirm that these walls are securely anchored and will not move, not even when shaken by the multiple earthquakes we've had in recent months. Although this haunt doesn't exactly follow all of the design elements in Disneyland's Haunted Mansion, this interpretation of it successfully captures the essence and distinctive atmosphere of that hallway in the mansion. Well, that wraps up this video for the Haunted Mansion set. But there's still more interesting things to explore in the Haunted Mansion, not to mention an upcoming prop build. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell because you don't want to miss out on the next exciting video in this series. Thanks for watching.